Hello, everyone. This is Jason Owens. Thanks a lot for joining me for episode number 4. I hope you've been enjoying these podcasts that we've released here over the past few days, doing my best to have 4 for you available very quickly so that as you're discovering this podcast, that you can have a chunk of content to go ahead and grab a hold of right away. In the very first podcast, we ended up talking about what you can expect by listening to the series. Of course, we are all about helping you package what you know and scaling that across a very wide audience, whether that is in the form of having a blog or having some training videos or packaging your material into a sellable product, a sellable program, maybe even a membership site where you can get residual income. I love working with people who are experts, people who are authors, people who are public speakers. Love working with you all. And I tell you what, I've been having a blast. Many of you know that my wife and I moved this summer. We ended up moving up to Pennsylvania. And I tell you what, that was quite a transition. And I am just having a blast getting my feet under me, once again, getting a new routine established. And it's just been going great guns here as we head into the winter. So looking forward to this episode. So again, in episode 1, we talked a lot about what you can expect by listening to the podcast series. Episode 2, I shared with you the results of my most recent flash sale, which if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I certainly encourage you to go back, check out episode 2. A lot of really good gold nuggets there if you ever thought about packaging something that will really grab a hold of the market and really grab some attention. Let me tell you, you will certainly get traction in your business. It's certainly been worth it for me. So go back and check out episode 2. In episode 3, we highlighted Joe Phillips, who is part of the community, part of the tribe here. He is somebody that I think we can all look to as what a good, solid, expert-type business will look like. Expert public speaking business, one that has products to it, one that scales. When you think about what you want to be when you grow up, Joe Phillips is actually a pretty good model to look at. So go ahead and check out episode 3, and you'll just begin to get a taste for the breadth that Joe Phillips has in his business. It's pretty impressive. So with that in mind, here we are in episode 4, where I want to talk about some of the pretty massive changes that I'm making in the email marketing strategy that I have for my business. So what I have done in my business, I evolved over, was the course of a couple years. I had started on, I can't remember if it was Constant Contact or iContact. It was a type of email marketing service. I know that I was on Aweber for, probably about 6 or 8 months. So I've tried a few of those programs. And frankly, I was seeing the pros and cons to pretty much all of them, right? So there were some that I liked for some reasons and some that I liked for other reasons. What I ended up doing was I looked at what Michael Hyatt was doing at the time, and what I saw from Michael Hyatt is that he was broadcasting his content. So he would publish something on his blog, and that would automatically publish the next morning out to his list. All right, so he was doing something called RSS syndication, or a really simple syndication, an RSS feed, and he had connected that feed over to his MailChimp account. So he was serving a lot of emails out of MailChimp, but that is how he was primarily getting his content out to his readers. And he was one of the few people that I saw using the entire blog post length, right? This wasn't a 200-word blurb just to kind of tease you into clicking on the link. No, this was the full the full blog post itself. So anyway, I liked that these emails were very content rich. They had great big shareable images inside of them, great big quotes. They had tweetable links. They were, quite frankly, they were really aesthetically appealing emails. So I saw that and thought, well, if that's working for Michael Hyatt, I'll certainly give that a go. Now, that wasn't the only thing he was doing, of course. He also, I noticed when he had a campaign that he would run, meaning that he has some kind of a launch that he's doing, some kind of a sale that's happening, he's really big promotion, he would begin to use the messages from MailChimp to get you to click over. Once you click in to show some kind of interest, well, it really seemed that you were moving from MailChimp over into Infusionsoft. So I know quite a bit about Infusionsoft. I've been on it for years. So I noticed that the campaigning to buy that product seemed to happen in Infusionsoft. So anyway, I watched that. It seemed to be a hybrid strategy. So he was using MailChimp to go ahead and send out content and tease people, get them into a campaign. But once you were into a campaign, maybe once you signed an opt-in page to go in and check out a new ebook that he was launching, from that point on, you were into a campaign, and that campaign was sending you through a sales funnel, through a series of emails that were all automated and all typed up ahead of time. And of course, the intention is to get you to buy, right? Get you to make a decision. So I watched that hybrid strategy, and I was able to put that into effect in my business. I had my blog set up. Of course, I'm on Michael Hyatt's theme, the Get Noticed theme. Love it. And I spent a lot of time over the course of a couple of days figuring out how I can custom code an email template so that when I hooked up this RSS feed that talked from my blog over to MailChimp, that it ended up looking really good whenever it sent out the emails. So I was really happy with that. And frankly, that was working for me. I also did a lot of campaigning over inside Infusionsoft. And I have a ton of things set up in Infusionsoft. Love it. It has my shopping cart, all of my affiliate management, all my campaigns, all my automation. It's all in Infusionsoft, and really, really enjoying it. I should probably do a show on just Infusionsoft one day because it really is that powerful. And it really is expensive, but wow, is it good. So anyway, that's all working for me. What I've noticed, however, in the ethos, just watching some people as far as what trends seem to be lately, I've noticed that Michael Hyatt has stopped doing these really rich, content-rich looking emails, right? So he's not sending the great big shareable images, the tweetable quotes, the really nice big fonts and all that. All of that is gone, and it's been replaced with really kind of a plain, boring, text-based looking email, right? I mean, there are no images, there are no pictures. Now, of course, there are clickable links inside this, but when I read back through his blog, he pretty much said, hey, listen, I love doing testing in my business, and here's what we're finding. We're starting to find that with some of the changes in the email algorithms out there, that a lot more of my stuff is going into spam boxes, or a lot more of my stuff is being put into the unimportant folder inside of Gmail, because I have these really big shareable images inside my emails. So what he noticed about deliverability is that when he stopped doing the pictures, that the deliverability of the emails went up. Okay, well, of course, if you're looking at any kind of sales funnel, what matters the most is what's closest to the top of that funnel. Well, sending is certainly really important. People receiving your emails is wickedly important as well. So you have to have those two handled at a very high level before you can even begin to think about counting the open rate, right? And of course, from open rate, it's click-through and opt-ins and all that stuff down there. But if you don't have the stuff at the very top end of that sales funnel figured out well, it can be a big deal, right? Especially when you're sending out as many emails as some of the bigger people are out there. Some people with the much larger platforms, yeah, let's face it, sending rates definitely matter. So with that in mind, frankly, I always had a bit of tension on the inside, right? So I have Infusionsoft. I'm paying good money for it each month. Why in the world would I want to use anything but Infusionsoft to deliver my emails? So anyhow, I really had some internal tension about that. So what I've decided to do is follow the lead of what it appears Michael Hyatt is doing. He's going to more so the text-based emails. And again, for me, I'm thinking, why do that in two different systems? Why am I not just going straight through and doing a text-based email right out of my Infusionsoft? Because of course, I certainly have enough horsepower inside that system to do it. So that's what I'm doing lately. I started transitioning people all into my Infusionsoft. Now, again, as people have opted into my list, I've been keeping track of that and putting people in both systems, but most often I'm just sending information out through MailChimp. So here's my conundrum. As I ended up migrating into just completely using one system apart from using two, what I noticed is inside and I'm going to use a term database, which is different than my email subscribers, right? So in my database that I have a lot of people. I had over 700 people in my database. Now, by people here, what I mean is these are not only just subscribers, but there are also people that I might have a conversation with them and say, that person is definitely going to have a need for public speaking. It's an event planner. That event happens in June every year. I'm going to go ahead and enter that person's contact information and just make sure that I capture it somewhere. Well, of course, it makes total sense to capture that inside Infusionsoft, right? Keep everything all in one place. Now, again, these are not subscribers. I don't have permission to market to them, but this is somebody that I can at least track, name, phone number, address, that kind of thing, so that when I want to reach out, I at least have it all in one place. And it's all protected in the cloud and not going to get erased and all that good stuff. So I have a lot of people in that category who aren't necessarily on my list, but these are people that I want to keep track of. Okay, so that's one issue. Now, the next issue is I have other people that I have met all over creation over the past 4.5 to 5 years, right? So I have people that I used to work with way back in my old corporate days. I have people that I met in doing a lot of the community college speaking that I was doing there in 2014, 15, and 16. I have people that I have met through networking events, through chamber events, you name it. People that have opted in because they ended up responding to Facebook ads that I put out. I've done a lot of Facebook ads, had some pretty decent response rates out of that. So I have people that, again, who have opted in, and I've talked to them a few times, and they're on my list, but people that maybe I haven't seen for a while, or they might not remember who I am. So anyway, I knew that I needed to go in and sort through all of this. I need to categorize people into a couple different buckets here. Actually, there's about 4 or 5 buckets. So I'll go ahead and tell you about that. And what I want to do for the rest of this podcast is I really am going to refer you over to the show notes for this, okay? The blog post itself. You will want to go to Jason R. Owens. So again, first name, middle initial, last name, jasonrowens.com / and then the number 4. That will take you over to the show notes for this episode, because what I'm going to give you is the high-level view of this cleanup effort that I did. I'm going to show you tactically what I did every step in the way, plus I'm going to give you the exact same text that I used in my emails, so that when your time comes to go through and parse through your list and do a cleanup effort like mine, you won't have to reinvent the wheel. You'll already have a model for it, and you can use what I've already done. So no sense to reinvent the wheel. It just makes good sense to go ahead and grab something that somebody else has done. So let me walk you through this in general. Now, again, I have people who I have met several different places, right? So what I first did is I went ahead and typed up an email. I created a bit of an automation sequence inside of Infusionsoft. Now, I know a lot of you may not be that familiar with automation, but pretty much here's how it works. You can just think of it as autopilot. You end up creating a series of 2, 3, 4, however many emails you want. In this case, for me, it was 2. And I created these emails, and I can put people into this sequence. These emails are tied together with a timer in between them. Okay, so first you send out, you start somebody in the sequence, they get the first email. Then in the next step, as soon as they get the email sent out, then what they do is they go into kind of a holding tank. And that holding tank can be 2 days, 3 days, 5 years, whatever time limit you put on it. So for me, I had a timer, I think about 2 days in between emails. After that 2 days is up, boom, they end up they get sent the second email. All right. So automation like this, you can set up in pretty much any email software system. Now, some of you who are on MailChimp, you will probably need to pay for automation to be turned on your account. For those of you, I think, who are on Constant Contact, I think you get some degree of automation from them. And I can't swear to all the other systems out there, but at least from MailChimp, I know that you'll need to pay to turn on automation. So at the very tail end of this automation, I created something called a goal, all right? And this goal is, if you click on anything inside this email, the way that I have it set up, if you click on anything, well, that must mean that you want to stay, all right? So if you want to stay, then I'm going to flag you with a marker that says, hey, I want to stay a subscriber. All right. So if you click, then I'm going to tag you as a subscriber and I will keep you on my list. If I don't hear anything from you, if you don't open, if you don't click, well, what happens then is you get tagged as a dead contact, right? That's somebody that I will remove off of my list. So now let's talk about that before I go any deeper. Let's take the aside here for a moment. Why in the world, after you've spent all this time getting people on your list, would you want to remove people from your list? Well, here's why. Your email reputation of your domain, the domain that you are sending from, is a really big deal. And I'm gaining even deeper appreciation for this as time goes on. Quite frankly, in the earlier days, I used to not pay this a whole lot of attention because frankly, I didn't really believe a lot of the hype and the hysteria. Lately, however, just due to a lot of the projects that I've been working with you, I'm finding that this whole issue of email deliverability, there's actually a lot to some of the hype that you're hearing out there. So the idea of keeping your list very clean is a very good thing. And by clean, what you don't want to have are emails that bounce back to you. Okay, so you met somebody 3 years ago and you've had this business card laying around. You finally get around to entering that person into your list. All right, assuming of course that you have permission from them. So you've put them on your list and then you start sending them something. Well, they left that job 18 months ago, or they left that position, or they got a job and they're no longer self-employed, right? Something has changed in their life and that email is no longer good. Okay, so what happens there is that if you send, say you have a message that goes out, you have a newsletter or whatever, you send this out to 500 people, okay, and you have, I'm going to make up a number here, you have 100 of these bad email addresses, right? Well, that's a 20% bounce rate. Okay, that's really bad because Gmail is going to look at this and say, okay, you are now trying to send to a whole bunch of my people, and 20 of these emails that you're sending me are no longer any good. There must be something wrong with your domain. You guys might not be a reputable sender because you have such a high bounce rate. So what happens there is that while Gmail may not block you completely, the deliverability of your emails may be somewhat up to question. So anyway, with all that in mind, you want to clean out your list of bounces, and you also want to remove people if they're just flat out not engaging you. Give it the college try, give it that one last oomph of trying to re-engage people. And there's a whole bunch of techniques that you can use to do that, but just go ahead and try to re-engage people. And if they're still not engaging with you, you need to get them off your main list. Now, you don't necessarily have to delete them completely, but what you want to do is you want to take a lot of these non-responders. All right. So let's say you get all the bounces. The bounces, frankly, if you can't get that straightened out, whether it's an old email or maybe you typed it in wrong, if it's not something easy to fix, I don't know what value the bounced emails are to you, because they're obviously not getting the emails. They're not going to buy anything if they can't get the email from you. They're probably not worth having on your list at all, or on any list for that matter. So the ones that are bounced, frankly, there's a good argument for just flat out deleting those. Next, the next layer is, hey, I've been emailing this certain group of people, right? So you can look through your list. You can find the people who are not opening. You've been emailing them for a while. So again, there are a couple tricks you can do there to try to get those people re-engaged. But again, if they're just not going to open, they're not really helping you a whole lot, okay? So some people have said, wow, you really want to take your non-openers off. Even if you've gone to all the trouble to try and re-engage them, if they're just not engaging, they're not helping your open rates at all, and they're not helping your reputation. So anyway, those are two levels right there of thought that you want to give to your email list. So let me tell you the exact phraseology that I used here on the email that I sent. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my notes here, and I'll give you a little bit of the psychology and the rationale behind what I did. Okay, so here's what the text of the email said that I sent out as part of my cleanup effort, right? So again, remember that I've queued this up. This is the first email that they will get out of a total of 2. The second email, frankly, sounds a lot like the first. In this verbiage, here's how I start out. we met sometime in the past 2 years. Maybe it was at, and then I've created a bullet point list here, one of the workshops that I run for the community colleges in North Carolina, at a networking event or a meetup in and around Charlotte, at a Rotary meeting where I spoke, at Craft Content Nashville where I spoke, at the Entrepreneur Summit where I delivered a keynote. Okay, so I list several other things there because, again, I'm trying to reconnect with people across the spectrum over the past 2.5 to 3 years. Okay, going on. Either way, I'm just writing to ask if you still want to stay connected. I write marketing tips so authors, experts, and public speakers can book more speaking engagements, sell more products. I write a lot on how people can leverage email marketing to make more money. If you'd like to stay connected, all you have to do is click here or click the button below. Okay, so that's kind of the top half of the email. Now, I literally have a big blue button right in the center of my email that says, click here to stay connected with Jason. Okay, so then we go on the bottom half, right beneath the button, I start back up again. You don't need to do anything to unsubscribe. You will fall off my list at the end of the next 3 days unless you click on the link above to tell me that you want to stay. If you have to go, I fully understand. Again, you don't need to do anything to unsubscribe. If you choose to stay, I thank you profusely. I look forward to sending more and more great targeted content to you over the next few weeks and months. Take care, Jason. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the psychology of what I'm doing here. Right here at the opener, the reason that I list this bullet point of, hey, maybe you saw me here, maybe you saw me here, maybe you met me here, is because, quite frankly, I've done this before where I haven't reached out to my people via email in maybe, 2 or 3 months, and then I send out this message, and people have, honest to goodness, forgotten that they met me, right? Life is busy. People only have so much bandwidth. If they've forgotten you, quite frankly, it's pretty easy and pretty understandable to have that happen. So I went ahead and listed down this list. I think I have 7 or 8 things there about where people could have possibly met. Okay. I do another couple things here towards the end. I like making people take action. Now, some people could say, well, gosh, Jason, you could have set this up a little differently in that if they didn't click anything, they would still stay on your list. Well, frankly, all that does is reward unengagement, right? So that's not what I want to do. I want to reward people for clicking and staying in. I specifically say 2 times, you don't need to do anything to unsubscribe. Why? I'm doing this very intentionally. I would rather personally have control over removing somebody from my list than having a whole bunch of unsubscribes. Unsubscribes aren't terrible, but frankly, I would just rather have control over that. So with that, again, you can get that text by going to jasonrowens.com / and then type in the number 4. That will take you over to the show notes here. All right, so now let's go into the results. What really happened out of all this? Well, if you're just sitting here thinking, gosh, Jason, I wouldn't think that a whole lot of my people would stick around. Or if you're thinking, hey, my people just love me like crazy, even though they're not opening my stuff. They love me and they're going to want to stay with me. They'll open this email. Well, I wasn't really holding out a whole lot of hopes here for the people that I put into this sequence. Okay, so I ended up putting 133 total people into this sequence. Again, I'm going through my list and I'm trying to figure out, are these people either... Well, I can read you those here in just a second. So here's what I did. I ended up putting 133 people into this, what I call it a hygiene sequence, right? A list cleanup sequence. Of those 133 people, I had 21 of them stay. All right, so you might be thinking, holy cow, that sounds like a pretty big attrition rate. Yeah, 84.3%. 84% of my list, 84% of those 133. Okay, so 84% of those people that I'm looking through. Frankly, I'm looking at some of these names. I have no idea where they came from. Or no, I have no idea who they are. There's just not been a lot of interaction there. I look in, they opted into my list 18 months ago. They haven't done a thing. They haven't opened a thing. They came in to get the freebie from maybe a Facebook ad, or we met and talked at a networking event. And frankly, it was even a stretch that they would have been interested in me in the first place. They said, yeah, sure, Jason, you can add me to the list. And frankly, I don't even know why I was asking to put them on the list because I just didn't see where that relationship would go. So anyway, those are the people that I put into the sequence, people that I just really had a pretty good feeling that they weren't going to stay at all. Now, let's go back and focus on the ones who stayed, my 21 people who stayed, 21 people who clicked and said, hey, wait a minute, Jason, you're not going to get rid of me that easily. Yeah, I want to stay. Click. All right. So those people raised their hand and they said that they're here. They're in. They want to stay engaged to me. So that's great, because now what I have of that audience, I now have a very engaged group of people. I have a much higher open rate. I have a much higher engagement rate. And frankly, I'm really, really happy with the list segmenting that I've done and the list cleanup work that I've done. Last part that we'll talk about here is the 5 major buckets. 5 major buckets that I put people in. So I have a bucket right now of my list that are current clients. So people that I'm working with on a daily basis, helping them grow their platform and grow their email marketing business. I also have a bucket here of former clients, right? So not all projects are going to last forever. Things naturally come to a close. So I do have a list of former clients. And then I have a list of what I'm calling my subscribers, okay? That is the classic definition of the email list of people who opt into your list and people who want to receive your newsletter or your emails. These are my subscribers. Then I have something called non-listed. So you remember earlier, I talked about people who I can look and say, hey, that's a person that will probably have a need for a speaking engagement. They're not necessarily on my email list, but these are people that I will probably end up doing business with, right? So I have a non-listed category. Then I have a last category that I'm calling belong to someone else. Now, part of what I do for my business is that I help people grow their lists, right? And sometimes when people are opting in, it's just a lot easier for me to go ahead and create a sequence in Infusionsoft. So I'll just have people opt in, and of course I tag them in my system that they belong to somebody else, so that of course we can export them from Infusionsoft. So I do have some people on my list who belong to someone else, and we end up doing some campaigns there periodically for others. So anyway, that's really the big deal. So I had 5 major categories of people, and I'll tell you what, I am thrilled with this work that I've done. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but I tell you what, it is certainly worth it, because now my email marketing is all wrapped up into one platform. I'm not using 2 or 3 different platforms now to send out my emails. It's all going out from one system. I know who's in, I know who's engaged, and I know what voice I want to take to each one of these audiences. So it's great stuff. So again, now I know that I've put a lot out there going here. A little over 28 minutes now. And I think it's about time to wrap up. I really appreciate everyone joining me here for this episode. Hey, listen, please go in to iTunes. Give me a review. I would love to hear just the good and the bad, all right? Go ahead and give it to me straight. I want to know if you're getting any value out of this. I hope that this is serving you well, and I look forward to seeing those comments and responding accordingly. Thank you so much for being here, and remember, everyone, your mission is to take your message to just one more person. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.